Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Manny James Games coming at you with my preseason fantasy rankings. Thank you all for joining me here today. All right, today we're going to be talking about some great news here. Obviously, you're way too early. Fantasy off-season draft rankings over here. So it's going to be my top 205 players. I kept it, try to keep it simple. I came up with a little system that I, decided to use here as far as trying to help predict the best patterns for, season-long fantasy. I don't play DFS or I don't play dynasty leagues, anything like that. I'm not, that kind of fantasy expert. What I can tell you is that I do focus on redraft season-long fantasy. So that means brand new teams from the bottom up, 12-man PPR. That's my jam. That's what I love doing. So that's technically what I would give advice for. I'm not really one of those guys that'll give you hey, this daily, this can be your weekly flyer. This can be this. I just know if someone's gonna be a good matchup or not, and try to help you get the best lineup possible for your current fantasy football. Obviously, there's no guarantee that I'm gonna be successful all the time, but if I'm right more than I'm wrong, chances are you're going to do more business with me, right? This whole time I've actually been looking down over here. I don't know why I've been looking over there, to be honest.
And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here. It is Manny James Games, and I am coming at you with my way too early fantasy rankings. Thank you for everybody that has joined me here today. Now, first, I want to talk about system I came up with when it comes to my rankings. Obviously, there's all kinds of systems out there set apart by the pros and people that do this for a living. I am by no means a pro. I am an amateur armchair GM like the rest of you here. The difference is I love the game, right? Not saying that none of you do, because obviously if you weren't listening to this, it's not, it's obviously because you love the game. But I've been playing fantasy football for many years now, and I'm a really big fan of season-long fantasy. I have tried very hard to do DFS and all that kind of stuff, and unfortunately I'm not very successful at that. I can't put together 100 different lineups that are different. I'll put some that are good, some are bad, and at the end of the day I'm not really necessarily the best at that. But when it comes to season-long fantasy, obviously most of that preparation goes into the front half when it comes to the draft, and that's why I'm trying to help you out here, guys. I want to make sure that you learn how to prioritize talent and how to draft correctly under pressure, because it is a pretty stressful situation. Not necessarily stressful, but full of pressure when you are drafting, because you never know if you're going to grab a guy here that may not be there the next round, vice versa. So you want to prioritize. So over here for my rankings, I have these guys. I break them up into 5 categories, right? A wild card is pretty much a dart thrower, right? That's a guy that, has a small snowball's chance and what to produce, but it's better than nothing, right? That's going to be a guy that might step in on an injury and be the go-to guy. It might be a guy that, maybe battles it out in training camp and gets a starting gig, right? And he builds that chemistry with, said quarterback or in the backfield, whatever the case may be. But these are going to be guys, you only want to have 1 or 2 of these guys on your roster tops, because you want to build your team so good that you don't really need to rely on these guys. But if you have to fill a roster spot, then obviously these are going to be your guys you're going to target. Handcuffs, of course, are going to be guys that, are peanut to your butter, ham to your burger. These guys you're going to hold there because they're going to be beneficial to your team in the long run. Remember, season-long fantasy is all about the long haul, not about the daily start. So these are going to be guys that you handcuff to running backs, or maybe, you grab a receiver that, hey, I don't know if this guy is going to be the guy in this offense or if it's going to be that guy. So I'm just going to grab them both here later rounds, hope that one of those guys produces so I could drop the other one. Because at the end of the day, you're probably going to shuffle about 2 to 3 roster spots throughout the season with spot starts or bye week flexes, things like that.
Next category here is going to be flexes. By the way, all these numbers here, guys, that you see here, 9 to 10 stars, 7 stars, 11 to 12 stars, that's just like the system that I came up with based upon like certain criteria I'm going to go over here in a second. But basically, because of these stars, these are kind of guys that are going to be, that's based upon their roles on the team and, certain team specifics is how good these guys, I think, are going to do. Obviously, I'm not right all the time, but if I'm right more than I'm wrong, chances are you're probably going to come back here and listen to this podcast again. So these guys are your flexes, spot starts, matchup metas, so guys that basically you plug in on bye weeks, or even if you have injuries, right? Sometimes you have a star out for a few weeks here and there, so these are going to be guys that are going to carry your team, right? And they're your depth pieces, so definitely very valuable there. You want to have a few of these guys on your team, of course. You're probably going to have more like 4 or 5 of these guys typically on your team, depending on how the draft goes. Your starters are, of course, your backbone of your team. They're locked in every week except for the bye. You're not going to change these guys out. Doesn't matter if they have a bad week or not. These guys, you're going to want to keep plugging them in week after week because you just don't know if they're going to have that blow-up week or if they're going to, necessarily have a good matchup. And at the end of the day, if you have these guys that are ranked as starters and they just don't produce, hey, that happens sometimes. It's fantasy football. You're not going to have, a guy producing every week unless, of course, he is 16-plus stars and a Hall of Famer. Basically, that's going to be your league winners. These guys are going to carry you to the fantasy promised land of Valhalla. So these guys are untouchable. You're not going to trade them. You're going to hold on to them unless it's a case where you need depth and you have injuries and you have to, take these guys and kind of trade them off for a couple other starters. Hey, that's the only situation where you're going to see those guys you're going to get rid of. Otherwise, you hold on to them you real tight because these guys are going to go ahead and carry you to where you need to be, right, at the end of the season. These are your guys producing every week 20-plus points. Now, first, I'm going to talk about my top 30 tight ends. Overall, I did go over 205 players. That is my total here. Why 205? Well, at the end of the day, I look at it from this standpoint, is you're only going to have typically 17 roster spots on a team, 12 teams. So that's going to put you a little bit over 200 roster spots. I think it's like 244. Don't check my math, please. I suck at it. But reason being is that you're not really going to go past these guys when it comes to the draft, right? Eventually, everybody works a waiver wire, right? So you're going to make changes there. But this is about, starting off, right? And obviously these rankings are going to change because as the season progresses or as the offseason progresses, in this case, things are going to change. People are going to get injured, people are going to get started, and people are going to get cut. And that's just how it is. So jumping in over here, let's go ahead and jump into these tight ends, and then I'll break down the categories here. So, of course, I have their name, team that they're on, their bye week, because that's all very important. You must balance your bye weeks. You don't want more than three guys on a bye week at a time, and those guys cannot be starters, right? You're going to have it happen sometimes, especially like week 9. It's going to be the most common bye week there, but at least you're going to try to balance that out correctly when you draft. ADP is average draft position. Again, this is for, June of 2023. So things change, right? Trends change. People start catching wind of guys, and you'll see overall that things change. Of course, I am also doing this based upon ESPN draft rankings, right? So that's definitely going to change. 2022 is, of course, their production for last year. Anybody that was suspended or a rookie, obviously you're going to see that on there, R for rookie or O for out, or just 0 for production if they were out. All right, guys, right here you're going to have your points projected here for fantasy points. I'm going to have that broken down. This is just based upon trends. Obviously it's not an exact science by any means. It's just, what I expect it to be. I break them down there. And, of course, their tier 1 through 4. You're going to have your guys that are top-notch there that are going to be tier 4, and then your lower guys tier 1. So that's how I break them down as far as, like, categories, because at the end of the day, their points are what gets me to their tier. Their points are going to be basically star points. So the better the situation, obviously, the more potential it has here. So the higher number of points for these categories is going to be the better they're projected to do. So, for example, over here we have your risk is going to be if the guy is a risky play. So in this situation, it's going to be somebody that has maybe an injury history, or maybe they're on a team that you don't know where they're going to develop or where they're going to end up in that pecking order, so to speak. There is some risk. The lower the score, obviously, the higher the risk. Offense is how good that offense is going to be. Is it going to be catered? For example, if you're in a running back, offense is to run first. Higher the points, better for that player. Also, if they're in an offense pass heavy or just really great explosive offense, higher points, of course. Now, O-line, of course, is going to be just that. How good is their O-line? Role is going to be how many touches or looks they're going to get that game. Obviously, the more looks they get, the better. And then overall, with those points accumulated is how you're going to get your tier. And these tiers are over here just to help you break them down. But jumping in over here, obviously, I don't spend a lot of time on these guys. These are going to be your wild cards down here. And obviously I only did 30. So Isaiah Likely, obviously I like him here. ADP is low. Back end of basically the draft, because these are like 12 round drafts, 12 man. So he had 91 points last year. He'll do a little bit better. Thing is, it could obviously be better, but it's just Baltimore. If Lamar's out, you don't know what's going to happen there. Luke Musgrave in Green Bay. I think Jordan Love's a solid quarterback. Don't know what this guy's role is going to be, so he is a wild card here. And, of course, he's a rookie. Luke Schoonmaker, Dallas, obviously later pick, rookie. Dallas loves their tight ends. I think he's going to be a nice little flyer later on. But if you're looking for something a little bit more consistent, that's why I actually have Schoonmaker down a little bit below these guys, because these next four guys here, Jelani Woods, only 74 points last year. I think he's going to get a little bit more looks, but not by much. Hayden Hurst, I think he's taking a step back. Carolina, because he had Joe Burrow thrown to him last year, and it was inconsistent. And I think it's going to be even less with, Bryce Young throwing to him. Now, next one, Tyler Conklin, New York Jets. Yeah, I think he's going to regress a little bit, because there's a lot of mouths to feed with Aaron Rodgers' offense. I think he'll be good, but, who knows. Noah Fant here, again, offense is going to regress. Seattle added a new weapon in the offseason. There is a lot of mouths to feed there. So if we're going to go over here to the next guy here, we're going to go two at a time here. So I have Michael Mayer and Gerald Everett here, 23 and 22. Obviously, Mayer's a rookie. Las Vegas, they love their tight ends as far as in that Josh McDaniels offense. The problem is, who's going to throw him the ball? We don't know. I mean, the Raiders are talking about they were trying to sign Carson Wentz, and now Carson Wentz is working out with Gruden, and, that's a little bit of a dilemma. If I were Wentz, I'd say, you know what, if the best option I have is to go to Las Vegas, thank you, Gruden, appreciate your help, but I need a job too, bro. We can't both be unemployed sitting on the couch. That's just not going to happen. So that's why I think he'll be a solid flyer here. Handcuff, of course. I just have him as a handcuff for just like a nice little solid bench stash. Same thing with Gerald Everett. He is still in LA Chargers, but again, there's a new mouth to feed over there, similar to the Noah Fant Seattle situation. So they added Quentin Johnston, rookie wide receiver, who looks excellent, by the way. I think I think Everett's gonna, take a step back because he's getting less looks. So I still think he's going to be a solid bench stash, right? Because if you look at his production last year, let's just say it was 16 games, right? Or 17 games. So 139 divided by 17. So, yeah, he's getting about 8 points a game. So for tight ends, that's pretty consistent. I mean, the guy wasn't bad whatsoever, so I would definitely have him there. But these guys, if you have these guys in blue, they need to be your second best tight end. You can't have these guys as your starter, because you're going to sit there and you're going to get waxed. Tight ends are not very great. And it's already a low-scoring position as it is. The next two guys here, 21-20, Greg Dulcich and Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee had a great season last year with Matt Stafford out. I think overall that team is not great. He averaged 9 points a game last year almost. And obviously they'll be better this year. I think they'll be better, but is he going to get more looks? I think he'll be the second best option, but I mean, if you looked at the game last year, anybody outside of Cooper Kupp was not getting any looks at all. Like Allen Robinson got traded. He was terrible there. And I don't think it was for lack of talent. I just think it was a lack of chemistry. And it doesn't seem like Matt Stafford's the same quarterback he used to be. So, again, regression on that guy. Greg Dulcich, I think he's going to improve. Sean Payton, great offensive coach. He's ran some pretty good offenses, and I think he's going to help revitalize that offense, make it better than last year. Do I think they're going to be a great team? I mean, not really. I think they'll be like middle of the barrel, but at the end of the day, it's a tough division already. The Chargers and the Chiefs are the best teams in that division. So, I mean, they're going to be, if they get that wild card, they're going to fight hard for that second wild card spot. And I think there's other divisions, there's at least two different teams that are better. And that's actually second best team in that division too. So I just don't see that happening. For example, AFC East I think is way better. You know, Bills, you know, you have the Dolphins and you have the Jets. Those, I think that's going to be where your second wild card comes out of, because Chargers and Chiefs in one, and then, you know, you're going to have Bills, and it's either going to be the Jets or the Dolphins. It's not going to be the Broncos. So sorry, if you're going to invest in the Broncos this year, good luck. It's going to be a crapshoot, in my opinion. Next guys here, Jawan Johnson and Irv Smith Jr. So Jawan Johnson, very solid last year. Definitely averaged some great points here per game. I mean, for a tight end, he was at 8 points. Do I think he's going to do a little bit better? Yeah, slightly with Derek Carr. But again, that offense is probably going to be run heavy. Now, if they have Jamal Williams and, of course, Kamara for how many games. But Michael Thomas is coming back. We'll see how he plays. The last year's rookie, Chris Olave, is going to be great. So that's going to be one thing there. Irv Smith, he is back with his quarterback from LSU, your boy Joe Burrow. So I could see him coming back. He also got injured last year. So him coming back, he was supposed to have a breakout year last year, got injured. Now he's with Joe Burrow, who loves tight ends sometimes. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of mouths to feed on the Cincinnati offense. But I think that he is athletic enough and he could create some mismatches, so he's going to get some consistent looks. So with that, I do feel he's going to get, you know, most likely like close to 10 a game. I don't think he's going to blow anybody out of the water by any means. Next to here, I have your boys Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, both on the same team. Knox was solid last year, missed some games, inconsistent the other ones. I don't know what's going to happen with the Bills this year. It is definitely not looking good with the whole Diggs situation. So maybe that could work out to Knox and Kincaid's advantage. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that they're going to be get consistent looks, because they're going to run some, you know, big jumbo sets, twin tight ends, whatever, and that could be productive. But you don't know if it's going to be Knox's game or Kincaid's game. So in my opinion, you pretty much throw the dart and go with whoever you go with. So that's how you handle that. But these next guys, I think, are going to be like 10 to 12 point a game guys for tight ends. Number 15, Mike Gesicki. He's in Bill Bryan's offense for the Patriots. They love their tight ends. And, of course, he played for him back in Penn State. So I think he's going to definitely take a step forward now that he's probably getting consistent looks on New England, because other than him, if you look at that offense, I mean, they don't really have a lot of talent. Tyquan Thornton, you know, and they have they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. You know, those are not names that blow my mind by any means. I feel like they're, you know, mediocre, right? And in a tough division, we'll see. Especially in a run-first offense, I don't see that happening. But Sam Laporta, Detroit, they love their tight ends. I know they got a guy from last year, can't recall his name. He was doing pretty solid the back half of the season. But if he was so good, why go out and grab a guy like Laporta? I mean, they want a star. They traded away Tyler Hawkinson last year, and chances are they're going to want to replicate that production, and they're not afraid to use it. So I think Sam Laporta, solid tight end, going to definitely get you at least 10 a game here. Chigoziem Okonkwo from Tennessee is number 13 and Cole Kmet 12. So I like Okonkwo. Obviously, Titans offense. If you watched him last year, this guy is super athletic. He does remind me of Jonnu Smith when he was balling, right? So Tennessee might be using him like that. Obviously, they don't have much offense on the wide receiver end. Treylon Burks is like their only receiver. Everybody else is buns. So it's going to, be a struggle bus on that particular offense unless, you're going running back and we know who, the king. But he could be a solid contributor, 10 to 12 points a game. Cole Kmet, same thing. He was pretty solid last year. He almost averaged 10 a game. Of course, do I think there's going to be a step back? Yes, I think there's going to be a slight step forward. I think he's not going to have many big games, but I think he will have a consistent look on that offense because he had, back half of the season, he had multiple games of 2+ touchdowns. So, overall, I do think he's going to take a step forward, but not by much. Next guys over here, David Njoku and Dalton Schultz. Those are going to be your 11th and 10th best tight ends. Njoku, obviously with Deshaun Watson, he was pretty solid last year. I definitely think he's going to take a step forward and be better, especially in that offense. I don't have really much to say about that besides he just needs to be healthy. Dalton Schultz, step forward because now he's going from being the third or fourth option. Actually, he was more second or third last year on Dallas to now being the second best option, and he's going to get more consistent looks in Houston. I think they're going to work that to his advantage because they realize he is a great tight end and they didn't pay him for nothing. So they're going to implement him pretty heavily in the game plan. Plus, Houston does not have the greatest receivers either. They're going to be struggling similar to the Titans, in my opinion. Next to here, let's go to Pat Freiermuth, Pittsburgh. I think he's going to take a step forward. Obviously, second year with Kenny Pickett. I think those guys are great tandems there. He's going to definitely average about 10 to 12 a game as well. And then, of course, he had some big games last year. I think he's their red zone target. They do have a lot of mouths to feed in Pittsburgh, but I think he's going to be a great tight end. And if you get him around his ADP, he's like a seventh rounder. I think he's worth it. If that's your 7th, 8th round pick. But let's see. Next two guys are going to be, and of course these guys are starters. We have Dallas Goedert and Evan Ingram. So Goddard obviously injured last year. He's going to take a step forward because if you play, chances are you're going to get more looks. And if you look at him, he was like Philadelphia's, second, I'd say third best receiver last year behind A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, respectively. And if he could stay healthy, he'll definitely produce more. He missed like 5 games, I think. Evan Ingram, that guy was a stud last year. If you watched him, second half of the season, he blew up. He was a mismatch nightmare, and I think Jacksonville really found out what they have in that guy. Like, they were moving him around in motion, getting him open, and, man, was he eating in that offense. So I think they're going to get him much involved. He was franchise tagged. I don't think Jacksonville is going to franchise tag just to waste his talent. They are going to use him, and even despite having Ridley back, I think the guy that loses that role in that offense is, of course, Zay Jones, who had a pretty solid season last year. Next two guys here we have are your boys George Kittle and Darren Waller. George Kittle actually hit 200 points last year. I think he's going to return with the same, obviously more productive workload, more consistent workload because he had some bad games under Garoppolo in the beginning, and Purdy came in and take over. So he's going to bounce back. I think it's similar production. So great pick there. His ADP is a little bit high for me. 4th round, I don't really like that. I'm not grabbing a tight end until the 5th round, especially if he's only a starter. Right? It's not worth the point production they're producing versus what you can get at the actual round is not worth it, in my opinion. Darren Waller, of course, had a down year last year, injuries, whatnot, but he looked explosive when healthy, and of course he's going to a better offense now. He's going to the New York Giants. They're going to be a better offensive coach in Brian Dable, and I think that's going to work out to their advantage. So he's going to have a bounce back year. He's going to average about 14 to 15 a game. He's going to be a solid fantasy tight end, and as long as he stays healthy, he could even compete for the top. Now the next guys I have here for the next two, 1 second. This is really a fun mess with me. All right, I have Kyle Pitts and T.J. Hawkinson. So Kyle Pitts last year, obviously 75 points is nothing. He was not doing much. I think they get better this year. Now that they have Drake London established as a, an explosive target, I think that opens it up for Kyle Pitts a little bit. And Arthur Smith has struggled to really get him produced out there because he's getting a lot of double teams. I think now this might help him having their boy Bijan Robinson in the backfield, because now they have to stack the box, which should open it up for mismatches. So that could definitely that's my sleeper pick there, is Kyle Pitts above these guys, because everybody else has them ranked higher or going later. I just think he might be the best out of this bunch over here. T.J. Hawkinson, of course, third best tight end last year, and you can see why. 215 points. He was balling out. I think he takes a little step forward. He's going to get the same workload as last year in that offense, and as long as he stays healthy, which he was last year, but not the years before, I think he'd definitely be solid. So he's going to step in there, take over that number 2 role behind Justin Jefferson, of course. And, of course, your top 2 tight ends, everyone probably has them this way, but it's going to be Mark Andrews and, of course, Travis Kelce. So Mark Andrews, 190 points last year, missing Lamar for that many games. That's still really great. I think he takes a step forward. But honestly, it's not going to be by much, just because you can only get so much production out of the fantasy tight ends. And I do think he is going to have a better season, of course, than Hawkinson, because he's going to actually have a healthy quarterback. And, of course, Kelce, 316 points last year. I don't think that's sustainable. I think he drops just a little bit. But until we see people stop Mahomes and Kelce, I still think he's going to be the top fantasy tight end and the only Hall of Fame ranked tight end that we have in that list here. But at the end of the day, as you can see, it's why he's head and shoulders above everybody. Like, his role is high, quarterback. Obviously top of the line there, O-line offense, low risk. I mean, I got it all going on. So, all right, thank you for joining me there. We just went over the top 30 tight ends, my top rated tight ends there. Hopefully you got a chance to follow with me over here. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and work on here would be the top 75 wide receivers. But first, let's get a word from our sponsors here. Thank you.
If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your 6. I'm Manny James Gonzalez, finding land for the free and home for the brave.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of the show. Manny James Games going over his way too early fantasy football amateur armchair preseason rankings, guys. Right now we are jumping into our wide receivers, which is a juicy one. Those of you out there, we know wide receivers score high, and they are a very deep talent pool, right? Because you're always going to have at least 2 great options on one team, right? Minimum. Versus, any other skill position is going to be 1, maybe 2 tops. So this is going to be a deep position. So I went ahead and went up to 75 wide receivers, and we're going to go ahead and get it started here. I do have my these are going to be your wild cards here. These are guys that could potentially be contributors, right? They could potentially jump into handcuffs or flex target guys, but obviously it's yet to be seen. So you have to trade carefully. Like I said, you only want to have 1 or 2 of these guys on your team tops, right? Anything beyond that, you're going to probably be struggling. But start buying off the bottom of the list over here. Marvin Jones, Detroit. I like him because Jameson Williams is going to be out for a few games, at least 6 with the suspension. So he's going to step in, be a nice little flex target most likely. Darnell Mooney had great chemistry with Justin Fields 2 years ago. Obviously, since Chase Claypool got out there, things are a little bit different. So I'm not too sure if he's going to emerge victorious out of that fantasy battle, especially with so many mouths to feed on a run-first offense like Chicago. Rashad Bateman, again, odd man out. Third best option for the receiver core, because you have OBJ
coming back over there. Mark Andrews, obviously number one option. And then, it could be Rashad Bateman. It could be Devin Duvernay. But in my opinion, the third best option is probably going to be the rookie, Zay Flowers. So that's how I feel. So Rashad Bateman's odd man out. Fourth best option. Not going to be too relevant unless there's injuries. Jonathan Mingo, Carolina, potential there. The top two receivers are DJ Shark and Adam Thielen. So I don't really. I think that he could emerge victorious out of that fantasy backfield, but rookie quarterback, whole new regime. I wouldn't invest too much stock in this team. It's one of those teams you got to be careful with. Jaden Reed, Green Bay. Everybody's saying he's going to have that gadget type role on that offense, which honestly, last year was Christian Watson's. And I think with Christian Watson emerging as the number one receiver now, maybe he's out more and inside less, because that does take a lot more hits. Maybe Jaden Reed ends up being that guy. But, hey, we'll see how, Green Bay runs their offense now the first year without Rodgers, which is, in my opinion, is going to be run heavy. And he could be the second best option. He could be the third. Honestly, I don't know if him or anyone else, is going to come out of there. So next two guys over here, Robert Woods and Tank Dell, both on the same team. Robert Woods was signed, traded there. He could be a starter for short term, but Tank Dell was also, drafted specifically for Stroud. So we're going to see it's all about who Stroud builds the best chemistry with. And honestly, I think Robert Woods lost a step, so he might be the odd man out there. That's why I have Tank Dell above him. Of course, Matt Collins, great fantasy season last year with Las Vegas. Showed himself to be consistent, which he wasn't in the Philly days. Pissed me off. But now with Atlanta, he's the second best receiver there. Third best, because you have Kyle Pitts, Drake London. So now Matt Collins could actually get the option to be productive, but that's all dependent on Desmond Ridder here. Sky Moore, Kansas City, that's a mess over there. We don't know what happens in Kansas City. It's just they spread the ball around too much. Outside of Travis Kelce, who is really going to be the guy, right? So, again, that is a wild card. But let's go ahead and move into our handcuffs here that you're going to want to stash. Oh, yeah, Rondell Moore, same thing. Arizona, horrible offense, no quarterback, no direction really. They have a new head coach. That's going to be one of those franchises you just avoid. I just feel like they're going to be tanking all year because they have 2 first-round draft picks, 2 potential lottery picks. And why wouldn't they try to tank to get Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC, first, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. at the second pick? So I could see them just being the absolute worst. So stay far away from Arizona Cardinals, along with a few other teams. With the next 2 guys here, let's just go into 3 guys. So Curtis Samuel, Nico Collins, Michael Gallup. All these fantasy drafts have Michael Gallup going at 132. He's going to be the third best receiving option on that team. And the team honestly is quarterback play has been horrible. I don't see them doing that good outside of CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. So do I think they're going to be explosive enough to have a third best receiver? Probably not. This is not just an Eagle fan talking, guys. I'm not just a Dallas hater. I'm a very real person. That's why I don't rank Eagles players ahead of people just because they're an Eagles player, right? I try to look at it from a very analytical standpoint and leave my emotions aside. But Dallas also sucks. So take that with a grain of salt. But anyways, Curtis Samuel, obviously Washington. We'll see what happens there. Shaky quarterback play. Don't know how that's going to emerge. But I do think he's, going to take a step back in that role, right? Nico Collins, everybody's saying he's going to be the guy, But obviously that's such a logjam at wide receiver. Houston, we don't know who the guy's going to be. And then, of course, Michael Gallup, as I said. Dallas, not really going to be too convincing if they're going to be good. Now, the next 3 guys here, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool. These 2 guys are both on the same team. Donovan Peoples-Jones actually had a great season last year. He was averaging about 10 points a game. For flex, he had some big games in there. Obviously, some bad games at the beginning, but Deshaun Watson was not there either. So as soon as Watson got in there, you saw Peoples-Jones blow up. And I think Elijah Moore is actually going to be better because he's going to be their more short area guy. He gets yak yards. They're going to try to put him in a position to, extend and, run after, yards after the catch. And they already have an explosive receiver in Amari Cooper if he's healthy. And then, of course, with Donovan Peoples-Jones on the outside, I think Elijah Moore is going to eat up those short underneath targets. And Deshaun does like to scramble a lot. Now, Chase Claypool, I think he's going to end up being victorious in that backfield battle, or excuse me, that wide receiver battle. He's going to end up taking that second best spot, of course, behind DJ Moore. So he's going to be a serviceable fantasy wide receiver, just because I think he's better than Mooney. Obviously bigger, more explosive, and he has a little cockiness to him. So let's see how that produces for him here. And that doesn't always translate on the field. Next three guys here. Isaiah Hodgins, Tyquan Thornton, and Jameson Williams. So again, Hodgins over here. Oops. Let me go ahead and get back over here. Hodgins, New York. It's a log jam at wide receiver. He was their best receiver last year. I don't think he'll be their best this year. Waller will be. And it remains to be seen who's going to emerge from there. But I actually have one other guy I think is going to finish in front of him in that pecking order, which we'll go over here in a second. Tyquan Thornton, of course, rookie receiver last year. He looked really good in limited snaps. Obviously, super inconsistent because they were switching between, two quarterbacks, Bailey Zapp and, this other guy who I can't even recall right now, their starting quarterback, Mac Jones. So does he take a step forward? Yeah, he doubles his production. Nice little stash, but not really a consistent contributor by any means. Now, Jameson Williams, obviously, he's going late. When he plays, this guy's going to be on fire because he only had 15 points last year. He only played like 2 games. So the guy is not necessarily going to be, he's going to be suspended for 6 games, so it's going to take a while to get him. But he's going to be a nice little stash. When he plays, oh, man, that guy's going to be amazing for Detroit. I would definitely get him as like your, 12th round stash because right now he's going around a little bit later. But you get him around the 11th or 12th. He's definitely worth it because you're not going to start him immediately, but you're going to wait for him to kind of get that roll, and he's going to really jet from there. Next 3 guys here. And here we bring the New York receiver I think is going to finish ahead of the pecking order here. That's going to be Jalen Hyatt. That guy has amazing tape from Clemson. He runs a full route tree. He's probably going to be their number 1 receiver, right? I don't know what position he's going to run, if they're going to put him in the slot or if they're going to run him at primary, but I think he's going to emerge the best receiver on that roster. So under that offense, Brian Dable likes to really utilize offensive weapons, and he's the best weapon they have besides Waller. So that's why I think he's going to be a better option there. Of course, Rashee Rice, I think he's going to be victorious for that pecking order for wide receivers. Obviously, he's going to be your second best receiver there behind Kelsey. My opinion, of course. And, of course, Tyler Boyd had a great season last year, but he takes a step back. Reason being, Jamar Chase was out 4 or 5 games. He plays a full season. That's, a bunch of targets that get soaked up by him as opposed to Boyd, who had a couple of big games in his absence. And then, of course, now you have Irv Smith, who's Joe Burrow's boy from LSU. So that's going to suck up some of his targets. So I don't think he's going to be horrible. I just think he's going to be, somebody that you're going to put in there just in case. So your next 3 guys here is A. Jones. Amazing season last year, 198 points. That is excellent for a guy that most people didn't even draft or have on a roster till like week 3 or 4. So he's going to be a solid contributor. He just wasn't, consistent. And I think he's going to be the guy that you start in the event one of those receivers goes out, whether it's Ridley, Kirk, or, Ingram. That's going to be a guy that you have a stash for, but you're not really going to start him regularly. Zay Flowers, again, I think he's going to be the 3rd best receiver on that offense. Number 1 is obviously Mark Andrews. And then obviously I think OBJ is going to be higher than him. And then Zay Flowers. He'll come in here. He'll do pretty good for a rookie. And then Adam Thielen, 180 points last year. Do I think he's going to regress that much? Not really. I just think he may not be healthy because he's going into his, mid-30s. He's not necessarily a guy known for longevity. So in that offense, I think it's going to go south quick. So it's just not worth taking a risk. There's going to be a lot of risk associated with him. I don't know why I had him, with 3 risks, and he was a low-risk guy because the end of the day, he is going to be riskier than that. So the next three guys here are your green guys. So Alan Lazard, obviously super risky guy, always injured. He had 174 points, which is great considering he missed a bunch of games last year. But I think he takes a step back because he's just not going to be the go-to guy on that offense. There's too many mouths to feed. McCall Harmon, they have, Alan Lazard, Curtis Wilson, and they have, tight ends they're going to be feeding. It's just hard to predict that offense this year. Quentin Johnson, really big on this guy. I think he might even finish higher than this. I think I might actually even have him too low right now. And I haven't adjusted my rankings, but have him here at, number 49 receiver. I think he's going to be great. He's going to get a lot of looks. And if either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams are out, he's going to be the guy that steps in and really gets those looks. He had troubles with drops last year in college, but, at the end of the day, that's something that can be corrected. And I think he's going to be a great wide receiver for them. Next guy, DJ Chark. Looked great last year for Detroit. Missed some games. Not really too consistent in some games. But being the top guy on that offense, he's going to be number one passing option. He's going to be a nice little flex option for you. So you're not going to play him regularly. You're going to play him if your stars are out. And he's going to step in and give you at least 10 to 12 a game. So next, I might as well. I already went up that high. So I have Gabe Davis, Cortland Sutton, Jahan Dotson. A lot of people have Jahan Dotson higher, but let me jump over here. Gabe Davis, 171 points last year. I think he regresses. They added Dalton Kincaid, and obviously Gabe did struggle with drops last year. I think he's a nice sneaky back-end pickup. If you're looking for that, he's going to be probably around the 10th round. I think there's also a couple options I would prefer over him. Like, honestly, I would probably have Quentin Johnson here above Gabe Davis. But, we'll update that here down the line. Next guy here, Cortland Sutton. He's going to take a slight step back. A lot of mouths to feed on that offense. I think everybody in the offense is going to be better. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? He's not really going to be, I don't think he's going to be as effective as he once was. But I think he will be great because if you guys remember, Sean Payton had Marquise Colson. And Marquise Colson wasn't like on people's fantasy radars, but he was pretty good when he was on the Saints, right, for those few years. So I think Cortland Sutton is going to play that role in that offense. Jahan Dotson, great contributor last year, missed a couple games, had horrible quarterback play this year. Not much better on the quarterback play, but I think it's going to be more consistent with Jacoby Brissett down there. And what's the guy, the rookie they drafted last year? He's going to be another quarterback. Can't think of him. But at the end of the day, he's going to definitely take a step forward there. Not by much, but a little bit. Let's see, who do we have here? Our next three guys. All right, Jackson Smith-Njigba, going to be solid. Rookie, of course, and he's going to be the third best option on that offense. But I think that offense is going to be pretty explosive this year for Seattle. So I can see him doing pretty good, scoring about 10 a game there. Jordan Addison, I had him ranked higher earlier before doing these rankings here. Like everybody else, right? He's going around 112. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's not going to be a lot of chemistry with him and Cousins. With him missing all of training camp, he's going to get in there. It's going to be a little bit slower, and he might produce at the second half. But I don't think he's going to be a star by any means when you have Justin Jefferson on the offense, right? Or Tyler Hawkinson, he's going to be the third best receiver, so I don't see him getting that volume by any means. But Traylon Burks, of course, takes a step forward. He stays healthy. He gets more looks. Gets more condition considering his asthma. So he's going to be the go-to receiver in Tennessee and the only receiver worth rostering in Tennessee. So now moving up over here, another three. Boom. We have Marquise Brown here, the next guy on the list. So Marquise Brown, oops. Pressed the wrong thing. So Marquise Brown here, he's going to pretty much be in the same level. He was excellent when he played, but obviously shaky quarterback play. Arizona's a dumpster fire, so he's like the only guy I would actually even touch on that team, and obviously it's going to be a late pickup. Like, I'm not drafting him 82nd pick, right? Like, I think that ADP is too high. That's why I have him after the guys like 116, 100, because I just don't think he's worth it. Next one, Kadarius Toney. He's going to be the number 1 receiver. That's the other guy I forgot about in Kansas City. I said should be Rashee Rice. He's not going to be the best guy. It's going to be this guy's going to be the second best receiver after Kelsey. If healthy, he's going to be pretty productive. But again, he's only a flex target because it's if he's healthy, right? So he has to be on the field. But if so, I think he has that chemistry enough to be a pretty darn productive. Obviously, Michael Thomas. Everybody's been on that Michael Thomas wagon for the last 3 years. Is he going to be healthy? Is he himself? I don't know what to tell you, honestly. I just have him here. His ADP is 95.5 right now for ESPN leagues. And, will he maintain that track? Can he get back to where he used to be? Probably not. But, if he even gets somewhere close to this range, we'll all be happy, right? I just think he is a little bit risky. That's why I have him flagged here. So it's up to your own discretion, but I do have him there pretty decently. And, of course, next 3 here, Juju Smith-Schuster. 185. That's with Mahomes throwing the ball, Mac Jones throwing the ball. Slight decrease, but I think that he's definitely going to get enough of a workload in New England that it's going to make him worth the pickup as a flex. Jacoby Myers, of course, used to play for Josh McDaniels. Now he's going to be the second best option, arguably, on that offense for receiving. So he had a pretty good season last year. I think he keeps the same, and he just gets more consistent looks. So he's going to get about 10 or 12 a game. Next guy here, Odell Beckham, missed the whole season, but man, is that guy going to bounce back? He's obviously going to win your comeback player of the year, just because he missed so much time. And he's going to be Lamar Jackson's second best target, behind Andrews. So I do see him coming back and being productive. So now the next 3 here. Okay, Drake London. Obviously, great season last year. He takes a slight step forward with production, and that's why I think I have him as the 35th best receiver. Christian Watson takes a step forward as well. More of a workload, even though lesser quarterback. Most people do forget Jordan Love's been sitting on the bench for the last 3 or 4 years behind Rodgers learning. And the 1 start he had last year, Jordan Love was pretty solid. So I think that, people forget how solid he was a playmaker at Utah. Didn't have the best, touchdown interception ratio his senior year. But, he had some pretty good highlights. So I think he has the talent to be able to go out there and produce. And I think he will be a pretty solid fantasy quarterback, which would surprise people, which means that Christian Watson's production is going to go up. Because now he's not having that first 4-game struggle as a rookie. Because when he dropped that bomb from Rodgers that one game for like 67 yards, his role diminished. He was getting injured, so I think he stays healthy this year. Your boy Amari Cooper takes a step back. Again, health issues, right? High risk. He's not somebody that I love to have, but if you get him at this pick, he's a 54th ranked guy, or the 54th pick for the ADP. I'm not crazy about that. I don't like risky guys, injury-prone guys. He wasn't that injury-prone last year, of course, but I think with this guy is only a matter of time, right? So you got to take a lot of risks, or a lot of risk with this guy, yeah. Next 2 guys. Dante Johnson. He's going a lot higher on my ADP than I like. He only had 180 points last year. He's going to take a slight step forward because he might score a touchdown or 2 this year. Right? If you had that guy, he frustrated you. But I don't think he's going to have the biggest workload. So I think that he might take a slight step forward, but not by much. Tyler Lockett, of course, I think he takes a step back. Having a rookie, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is going to take away some of those targets. And so I think he's going to take a step back there. But he was still, by all means, a solid contributor. And these are, and that's why I have him considered a flex option. And then your next 3 guys here, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, Brandon Cooks. As you can see, these guys are 90th picks, and I have them higher than these guys. And the reason being is because these guys are risky. Obviously, maybe Christian Watson shoots up those rankings later on down the line. As of right now, I have these guys, Jerry Jeudy, slight steps forward under Sean Payton. I think he's going to be the best receiver. But again, they're in a tough division, and, Russell Wilson does seem to be taking a step back. Brandon Ayuk, coming back in. He did pretty solid last year. I think he gets a similar workload. Obviously, they're struggling at quarterback. I don't think Darnold's the answer. I've seen a ridiculous report saying Darnold's going to lead them to the promised land. Anybody can quarterback for that team, and that's garbage. Because anybody that watches football has known Kyle Shanahan has killed every single one of his quarterbacks and starting running backs for the last 5 years. The only one that survived so far has been McCaffrey for that, but they acquired him mid-season. I think he's going to be healthy, but again, not putting a lot of eggs in that basket. Brandon Cooks takes a step forward. He's on a crappy Houston team last year. Now he's coming into Dallas, second best receiver. He's going to get a lot of looks. So I definitely do like him here as a starter. So he's going to be a plug and start every week except for the bye week if you have him. And the next three guys here, Keenan Allen, definitely think he falls down in rankings because Keenan Allen is getting older. But I do think he's going to have a better year than last year. He's going to be healthier. So that's going to help him to, obviously, because he's getting drafted 44th overall. You want a guy, if he's getting drafted 44th overall pick, you want a guy that's going to give you more than 160 points, right? So if he stays healthy, which I think he can, obviously he takes a step forward. George Pickens, he's my favorite receiver out of Pittsburgh this year. 166 points. That's amazing considering he didn't, start getting looks till the second half, and Kenny Pickett didn't start playing till several games into the season. So I think he does take a step forward, and he's going to be a great starter. Chris Godwin, of course, great season last year. Now with the crappier quarterback and the team the way it is, I think he does take a slight step forward. It remains to be seen though. So, but he definitely had a healthy workload last year. Next three guys here. We have Mike Williams. He's going to be great if he's healthy. He missed like 5 games last year as well. So if he plays a full season, of course, you're looking at some really great production from him. He's averaging like 15 a game. Christian Kirk, amazing season last year. I think he keeps the same exact role because he had targets galore. I think the guy keeps the role even with Ridley coming back because remember some of those targets are being taken away from Zay Jones. So I think he's going to come in and still do what he does. Next guy here is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is I just talked about Kirk. Michael Pittman here. I think he's taking a slight step forward. He's going to get a little bit better goal line looks, but not by much. I think that team, Indianapolis, is going to be building. But with the offensive coordinator they have right now, Shane Steichen, I think they're going to be in a pretty good shape. So I do like him. He's being drafted 88th overall. I think he's going to be better than that. Let me see here. Next guys we have here. 1 second. All right. Next three guys. You have Calvin Ridley. Again, missed the whole season last year. Suspension. Should be a solid fantasy contributor. He was like top 20 when he was healthy the year before. So I think he'll come back to that. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, stepped forward, going from the worst team in the league in Arizona to now being a free agent. We're going to see where he goes. His rankings might change depending on what situation he is in. But I think overall he's definitely going to be a solid contributor. Mike Evans here. Obviously, 225 last year. He'll probably take a step forward because now he has to do more of it. I think they're going to get him more looks. And Baker's not a bad quarterback, in my opinion. He's more of a game manager. But I think they're going to get him those looks he needs. And he wins a lot of those contested balls anyways. So let's see what we have here. Next three guys. Okay, so we have Deebo Samuel here. Deebo, of course, 168 last year. He's going to double his production almost next year because he's going to be healthy and consistent. But obviously ADP 38.5. I think he's going a little bit higher than these guys. I would rather have these guys like Terry McLaurin. I think he takes a step forward. Excellent season last year. Could be better, especially with consistent quarterback play, so that remains to be seen. Chris Olave, again, excellent season last year. Missed a game or two, but better quarterback play. He's going to be definitely a really great fantasy asset for you here. If he's your second, third best receiver, you're in good shape because he's going to give you solid production week in, week out. Next three guys here, I do have is DJ Moore. Obviously, 199 last year. He's going to take a step forward with Justin Fields. He's going to get a lot of looks, ladies and gentlemen. I love him. he's 62 overall. Like, I would take him over all these guys down here, like Ridley, Hopkins, all those guys being drafted ahead of him. I think he's going to be great. So if you grab him and he's going around the 5th round, he's a steal. DK Metcalf, again, he's going to take a step forward. He's going to be the number 1 go-to guy. There's too many weapons on that offense to just double team him, and that's going to hurt people. If you watched him play last year, he wasn't so emotional the second half of the season. He was like, people were getting in his face, and he was just producing, right? He was just out there just laying it on them. So I think that's going to help him to play a better season this year. T. Higgins, of course, 220 last year. He takes a step forward because now he's going to be more consistent. He had some great games last year. He could definitely do better, have more touchdowns, and I think Bengals definitely take a step forward. Bengals might actually be your best team in the AFC this year, but that's obviously for another day, another discussion. Next one's over here. All right, next to Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. Obviously, there's second options on their team, but these guys are outproducing starters on other teams. 254 last year for Smith. I think he takes a step forward because he's going to have a little bit more looks. He only had about 1,196 odd yards, so almost 1,200, and 8 touchdowns, so he was great. Waddle was killing it. I mean, first half of the season exploded. He was averaging 30 points a game first 6 games. So he was on fire. I think he gets better looks this year because if Tua is healthy, then Waddle's going to have better looks. And if you watch Waddle the second half of the season, he had some drops in some of the last few games, and obviously that had a lot to do with quarterback play. But definitely a great option. So now we're going to jump into your Hall of Famers here. And, of course, the first 2 here, we have Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb. Garrett Wilson will definitely take a step forward under Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be the top target. Rookie year last year, that guy is going to be amazing. So be on the watch out for him. Definitely, if you have him as your top receiver, hey, you're not hurting him whatsoever. He's definitely a wide receiver 1 here. Next guy, CeeDee Lamb, 301 targets. He's going to have the same workload this year, and that was hefty workload here. So I think he's going to maintain that. So that's why I think he has that target share there. Next 2 guys, Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs. So these guys here, obviously last year, some of the top guys. Devontae Adams, I think, takes a step back. Again, no quarterback play, so I think he's going to get less good targets. So we're going to see how that works out. Stephon Diggs, slight step back. Again, there's some friction there. I think it'll get resolved, but overall, he's not taking a step back because of anything outside of, maybe Buffalo takes more of a run-heavier approach because last year they were pass-heavy. And with this year having better options at running back, maybe that allows them to run the ball a little bit more. Next 2 options here, of course, A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. A.J. Brown's going to have the same workload. Beastly work. I think he had 14 touchdowns last year. It's amazing. And he's going to be the top guy in Philly again. So when he's healthy like he was last year, he produces. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy was amazing last year. Missed a game or 2, but still really great. And, of course, that wasn't even with the, his hefty workload. I think he's going to score more touchdowns. Detroit's going to be a better team this year, keep people honest. And a lot of those touchdowns, were given to Jamal Williams, right? So I think that definitely opens it up for him. And he's going to get a lot of those, corners and outside throws, and he's going to get open because he's just an amazing receiver. All right, next 2 guys here. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase. Cooper Kupp coming back. Missed some games last year. Same thing with Matt Stafford, his quarterback. So he comes back to that elite fantasy level. So if you have him, you're in great shape. Jamar Chase, of course, missed 4 or 5 games as well. That guy's going to come back and be great as well. I mean, if you watch him play, that man does not, you can't guard him, right? He's just too amazing. And so that's going to create some mismatches. And, of course, the top 2 fantasy wide receivers here, we're going to go ahead and pick them. Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. Everybody has Justin Jefferson as number 1. 368 last year's nothing to scoff at. I think he maintains it. Same workload, right? And, and that's even considering he had a couple games he was shut down. So I think he has less 40-point games, more consistency, and he does great. So that's Justin Jefferson. Of course, Tyreek Hill, 347, same workload. Healthy Tua, like even without Tua, Tyreek was still getting open. So I think that, he maintains that. And he does take, the only reason why I have him same workload is because I think that even with more targets going out there, I think more of them are going to go to Jalen Waddle. And that's why I have him going from 260 to 280, because Waddle's going to get a few more targets. But by any means, if that's Tyreek's number 2. He's going 7.9, so that means that people are grabbing Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp before him, and honestly, in my opinion, that's a mistake. But obviously, guys, tell me what you think in the comments here. I appreciate you all coming in, listening to me. I will be working on the second half here. I'll be working on the running backs and quarterbacks here for the next video. But in the meantime, hit the follow button, hit the like button, hit the share button, and make sure to follow me here, Manny James Games. And to all of you that did join, I appreciate you listening to me here. Hopefully you enjoy what I have to say, and more content coming here soon. So have a great rest of your day, guys. Thank you.